Okay, I gotta be honest. If this is how uncomfortable Michael is wearing this mask, I get why he kills people. Like, he'd just be angry all the time.
Are you revealing some hidden intentions for yourself?
No, I'm trying to breathe. It's really good. I can't hear anything. Anyways, Halloween, the movie, 1978. What a film.
Are you like really struggling over that?
It hurts. It hurts.
You maybe just want to do it without the mask on?
No, I have to do
You're
it
going to power through it?
for the channel.
Okay.
So, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's really good.
It's considered one of, if not the first modern slasher. Am I understandable in here, by the way?
I can understand you. I don't know how well the camera will understand you.
Well, hopefully the camera understands me well. I will enunciate my words more.
Okay.
Go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that I think Halloween... Jeez. Thank goodness you don't have a knife in your hand.
That you can see.
I think Halloween paved the way for other slashers like Friday the 13th, Freddy...
Nightmare on Elm Street. Scream.
Scream.
Yep.
Stuff like that. Like, this was really the first of its kind.
Yes, it was. Okay, I took the mask off for several reasons. One, my beard hairs were ripping out and going into my mouth. Another one was you couldn't understand me. And thirdly, I actually thought I was hyperventilating. Like, I guarantee some third world country somewhere bought 10,000 of these, shrunk them down, and it's like a prisoner of war torture device.
Oh, no.
So I'm telling you that Michael has very good reasons to be angry in this movie from the mask alone.
But we understand it now.
Now, here's the thing, by the way. With this movie, I will say, I should move my arm. I will say that one thing with it is that they don't explore Michael at all in terms of his motivations, really, which is a good thing. Now, we're in the spoiler-free section. We'll get into spoilers in a couple minutes.
Even though this is 42 years old.
Even though this is 42 years old, because I don't want to give anyone the out to like bitch at me in the comments. Okay, like these people are merciless. They will find an in and go for it anyway. We don't need to give them the opportunity.
Don't give them the ammo.
No, we don't need to give them a platform here. So here's the thing with this movie. I think that in terms of positives, just right off the bat with no spoilers, it's done really well, especially on the budget that it's on. This thing was really recorded on shoestrings compared to normal budgets today. It's crazy. So that's one thing that's really cool about it. Another thing that's really interesting with it is that Michael he right off the bat became an iconic horror villain. From the get-go, this movie made him an iconic horror villain. I would say even Jason Voorhees, that didn't really happen until Friday 3. Freddy was able to sort of capture it in 1 and really hardcore in 2 for Nightmare, and Ghostface in 1 of Scream. But the thing is, Michael was like the guy immediately. This is one of the most iconic characters in horror history ever, even though most of his franchise sucks after this movie.
Yeah.
However, I think that's worth noting that this movie was able to create such a staple in horror.
Yeah, he is arguably the most iconic horror character
of all time.
So even to like this day.
And it's crazy because I think that the kills were well done in this movie without getting too far into them. We'll get into some negatives with them in a minute here too. And I like the pacing the first couple times you watch it.
Yeah.
I think that it's a really solid... I wouldn't change much in this movie, honestly, especially for when it came out. But I will say that moving into a negative, it might be hard for for established horror fans to go back to this movie. And I only say that because the pacing is very slow. I don't think that's bad, but I think that people aren't used to that anymore.
Yeah, so I never really watched a lot of horror movies. And actually, you're the one that recommended this movie to me probably 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever it was. And since then, I've watched more horror movies. But I will say the first time I watched it, I didn't notice the pacing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was actually a little scared.
Yeah, it is still scary.
I mean, I watched it in the basement with the lights off. I was the only one in the house. So maybe that added to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also kind of a wimp when it comes to horror stuff. But
that's okay.
So I will say that for new people into this franchise.
Yeah.
The first time you watch it, you probably won't notice a lot of those things.
Yeah, this is a really good introductory movie into horror.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of those movies that it stands up under scrutiny. Friday the 13th in some ways tried to be this, but it's worse.
Yeah.
Honestly. And now those movies are really fun in their own way and in, different ones. And they surprisingly they have more overall good movies in them than Halloween does actually.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy how long-standing this film is. I will say negative, like you said, there's a lot of overacting in this movie.
Yeah, especially surrounding some of the kills.
Yeah.
It's a little obvious at times.
Yeah.
That John Carpenter was like, all right, now act scared. And it was just pretty obvious.
And they were like, oh no, why? He's stabbing me. Ah! Yeah,
It was kind of weird at times, but...
So, I don't know what else to add to non-spoiler. I mean, I think it's one of both of our favorite horror movies.
It's a good movie.
Now, the thing is, without getting too far into it, I think you and I both have more fun watching the continuation of the original timeline that came out in 2018.
Yeah, that's a way better movie, I think.
In terms of
enjoyability and how much you get into it, I think they're both well written about the same.
That's the thing that's hard to... It's like it's more fun.
Yeah, it's
the
like
new one.
I enjoy the new one better.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a better movie.
No, and I wouldn't necessarily say the new one's much worse either.
Yeah.
I've seen some people argue that too.
They're both pretty good.
And all the time when people do that, without getting into a review of that one, most of the things that people point out as bad you could find in this movie, like overacting or melodramatic teenage stuff. Regardless, this movie is amazing. If you watch this movie, I recommend you jump into the 2018 one. I personally say skip everything else. I know some people are going to say, but Halloween 4 and H2O, yes, they're fine. There are decent horror movies in the Halloween franchise after this. I hate Halloween 2. I think it's garbage.
It's a bad movie.
I think it is a train wreck. I cannot believe some people love that much more than the reboot. I just can't believe it. But if you do, good for you, I guess. So, moving into spoilers. What were your thoughts on this overall movie? I mean, there's not a lot of story to it, but the story essentially, Michael Myers kills his sister when he's young, institutionalized by his family. He grows up waiting to kill again. I mean, after he gets a kill, it's like he's just an animal.
He wants another one.
Yeah, that's all he cares about.
Yeah, so the story is not really... It doesn't really go in depth into the story until you get to like the 2018 one. Mm-hmm. And now we're just going off of Halloween in 2018, like that timeline.
Yeah, that's really... I don't really
there's
care.
There's a lot of different timelines.
Well, yeah, there's also the Cult of Thorns, and then the idea that he was resurrected and an eternal zombie.
I think the one that we care about is just the original and 2018, and then Halloween Kills.
Yeah, which we haven't gotten yet, and hope is good.
So, the story is more delved into in that one. But this one doesn't really touch on the story that much, but from what you do get, it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's mainly just a boy, like you said, kills his sister, goes to an institution, gets out, and then wants to kill Laurie. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, the movie never really explains why he wants to kill Laurie, but it's often seen that maybe she reminds him of his sister.
That's what I thought, because they looked similar-ish.
Yeah.
That was the best I could come up with.
But they never really explain.
Well, and that's part of the...
Yeah, that's part of like the horror too.
Yeah, and the charm.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of movies, they get... Explanations are good, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of movies get so tied up in explaining what they're doing. Like, oh, well, it's actually because of this. That's a problem that the Halloween franchise suffered from over the years was, well, actually, he's trying to wipe out his bloodline because the Cult of Thorns in his bloodline, and they resurrected him, and you can see the Cult of Thorns symbol in the bathroom, and it just goes on, and at a certain point, you're like, okay, I don't care.
I want to watch about Michael killing people.
Yeah, that's really what people got into this for, and to get kind of, scared.
Right.
And I think that this movie does such a good job of not over-explaining itself. And I think that vagueness is good, even though, weirdly, I wouldn't want that in every movie.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want everything to be vague.
It worked for the original.
Yeah.
So...
And I will say, too, in terms of spoilers, some of the kills were really well done, but the teenagers in this movie overact like crazy. especially during those kills. One of the best ones actually was the strangulation in the car, because it goes on for a while, kind of like a real strangulation would.
Yeah.
One thing I hate in movies, not to sound like a serial killer here, but is half the time in a movie, if this was the person, it'll be like, oh, they're dead.
Yeah, and then they'll instantly go limp.
Yeah, and if you know anything about the human body or about people in general, that's just not how it works.
No, they fight back, they try to survive.
Yeah, and this movie does a good job of making people seem like they're trying to fight back and survive if they feel it when Michael's coming. One of the best scenes in the movie, too, was when Michael, and I'm not going to remember all the names of the teenagers because Laurie's really the only one that matters at all, but one of Laurie's friends, her boyfriend gets killed. Michael shoves him up onto a hook, like right through it, kills him, and then he just sits there and he goes like this.
Yeah.
And he just kind of turns his head looking at him. And that's one thing I like about this, is there's a lot of underlying things here as well with the character of Michael Myers. They've found that a lot of serial killers and sociopaths do get a sexual gratification from it. It kind of seems like Michael's drives are tied up in that in a lot of ways. I mean, his very first kill was his sister topless. And he watched her through the window. Yeah,
and that's also why a lot of his kills have to do with girls or guys when they're like super horny.
Well, and also stabbing.
Yeah.
I mean, stabbing is typically a very personal way to kill somebody.
Right.
In criminology and criminal behavior and analysis.
Seems like you know a lot about this stuff. With The Mask, too.
I'm the new Nick Castle. They'll hire me for the, for the follow-up. No, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of underlying themes, though, in that Michael character that are really interesting that I have always loved more than most other horror villains.
Yeah. And one thing I also love about Michael in both this one and 2018 is he doesn't say anything.
No.
But yet you figure out a lot about his personality just by his actions, his, like head movements, things he does, how he kills people, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He's actually kind of a quirky guy. Like
quirky.
I know it's a funny word, but he doesn't just like go up and kill people.
No, he does. He plays tricks sometimes.
Yeah, after he killed the boyfriend, he went up, put like a sheet over his head, and had the guy's glasses on.
Pretended he was dressed like a ghost.
I was just like sitting there, like.
And then she flashed her tits at him, and he's like, "Nice."
Yeah,
that's the only word he says in the movie. Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I do think that's funny. I think that you see that as well in the follow up, like you said, and those personality traits give him a lot of humanization, weirdly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how Freddy had a sense of humor when he killed people. Now that's almost scarier in a way because they just take it as nothing, you know? One of my favorite scenes in this movie as well, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to show all these just because of one, copyright, and two, finding them, is how you can see that Michael sees the mask as his face.
Yeah.
He acts differently with a mask on, even as a child, than he does with the mask off. When he puts on the mask, he puts on the clown mask, all of a sudden he's emboldened to actually kill his sister as a child. When his mask is pulled off by Laurie, he freaks out and tries to pull it back down. It's very Rorschach-y from DC Comics, where it's like, oh, my face, my face. It's like he thinks that's his face. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Is not the person behind the mask, but Michael Myers is the mask.
Right.
Which is really cool. So you and I differ a little bit on this, not completely. You found more scenes to be dated in this movie than I did. The driving in the car scene, by the way, that scene always made me laugh. I didn't find it scary. Maybe I would have at the time.
Yeah.
That scene, though, however, I guess is better on DVD. And the only reason I say that is because it's not very clear. Now, on Blu-ray and 4K, you just see Michael's mask. You just see him turn and drive by in this sedan, and it's perfectly crystal clear. I guess that's better on DVD, and I've seen some clips of that. I do agree with that.
It's a little more blurry.
Yes, that actually helps horror movies sometimes.
Yeah.
In modern, I watched this on 4K the other day. You watched it on Blu-ray, I think.
Yeah, Blu-ray.
Blu-ray up, some of the scenes are a little too bright. I don't think that actually helps the movie.
No.
That's not the movie's fault, though. That's the fault of the remastering of it over the years. But being able to fully see that scene, it is a little weird looking.
Yeah. It is a little weird and also kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I keep going back to, what slasher, like serial killer, is just going to drive by someone in a car being like,
Well, my favorite part was, if you watch closely, he drives right behind Loomis when Loomis is hanging out with
yeah, he does.
the sheriff.
He does.
And Loomis doesn't notice it because he's facing the other way.
Yeah.
And Michael's in the mask that was stolen from that shop.
Yeah.
He just drives by in the stolen mask. Yeah, there is stuff like that when you make it so bright that people can see it, it's easier to criticize than in its original release. Because originally, it was kind of hard to see what the hell does that guy look like in the car.
Right.
So it was kind of creepy.
It just looks like a pale-faced guy.
Right, and then you look closer later and you're like, oh, that was actually Michael.
Yeah.
It's very easy to miss that. I actually didn't notice that he drove by Loomis the first time that I watched this years ago. And then when I watched it again on 4K, it was very clear. And it's like, oh, that's really obviously Michael. There's nothing hidden here.
Right.
So I think that the further we get along with this movie, I almost recommend you just watch it on DVD or Blu-ray and you stop there. I don't really recommend you get this on 4K and 8K and all these other things, because it's getting so clear that it's taking away from the mystery of the film.
Right. And with especially an old horror movie with not the modern technology to make it happen, it really hurts the film.
Yeah.
So, and also there's other weird scenes of Michael like standing behind a bush, which I just found kind of funny.
Right, yeah.
Because it's just like, why are you just like standing behind the bush? Like he's just standing there like...
And that's the thing, is that all of this stuff looks sillier than it actually is the clearer you get, I think.
Yeah.
Not to dismiss those criticisms, because some of them are scenes that are a little dated.
Right.
But the clearer you get with this, which sucks because I like buying the newest format of these movies,
right,
the more obvious those things are. It's a lot of movies have hidden things in them, and the blur or the technical limitations are used to aid the movie with where the time period is. And as you strip that away, it kind of hurts it. It's the same thing with Alien. Not to get too far into this, but Alien, for example, if you watch that on DVD, I like it on Blu-ray a lot. I like how clear it is, but there's one scene that hurts real bad from that. And that's the scene where the alien drops down and grabs someone and pulls them up the vent. Now, in the original, that looks scary as hell.
Right.
When you watch it on Blu-ray or 4K, that's a dude in a rubber suit. And you can tell immediately that that's a dude in a rubber suit.
Yeah.
Without question. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is I think that some of these upgrades almost hurt the movies.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's not even really a criticism with the movie.
No, I think it's the
just,
version we watched.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. It's like, overall, I think this is one of our favorite horror movies. I don't think either of us has much else to add to this. I'm probably going to have to edit this down so it's not the longest review of all time.
Right.
But we both love it. We recommend that you check out this movie and then check out 2018. I personally would skip the original timeline. I would also skip the H2O timeline.
And the Rob Zombie.
And the Rob Zombie timeline. I would skip that as well. That is the most heavy-handed Halloween timeline I've ever seen, where they're like, how do we show that Michael's not that bad? How about you put a rapist next to him? It's the most not subtle thing in the world. So, okay, fine. Yeah, it'd be like you had a serial killer and they're like, but wait, in the background, let's put a leader a picture of the old leader of Germany from World War II.
Yeah,
then you'll know that he's not as bad as that guy. Yeah, I don't know. Avoid those. But yeah, this movie, and then 2018, which we'll also be reviewing, we absolutely love. We hope that you enjoyed this. I know it'll be longer than normal, and these are more niche videos for a lot of you. Not a lot of people check these out. So let us know what you think. Let us know if you enjoy it. If there's things that you would like to see done differently or better in future reviews, we appreciate that. Everything is in the description down below. As always, the Patreon, Discord, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, everything's down there. However you want to help support the channel or join up with our community, we appreciate you very much. We're at probably over 60,000 subscribers at this point, which is insane. So thank you very much for the support, and have a fantastic one. And as always, stay shui and don't watch your topless sister through the window. At least, if you do, don't kill her, but probably don't do that anyway. It's kind of weird. So I'm just going to say don't do that.
Okay, thank you.